Sometimes, the smallest favors are the sparks that ignite wildfires. What begins as an innocent request can unravel the careful tapestry of a marriage, each thread loosening with a whisper, each moment growing heavier with secrets. Imagine your whole world, a quiet home, a gentle routine, suddenly tilted by a single phone call, a hesitant knock, a late-night confession you never saw coming. In a life painted with calm lavender and soft jazz, what happens when a stranger's voice stirs forgotten dreams and forbidden questions? Watch as love's quiet surface fractures, and the ripples change everything forever. What happens when a simple favor from your husband's best friend spirals into something you never saw coming? Could one small moment change everything you thought you knew about yourself, your marriage, and your life? Stay tuned, because this is the first and only groundbreaking story that will leave you speechless. You won't believe the shocking twists and secrets that unfold. Don't miss a single moment. Like, subscribe, comment, and share this unforgettable journey with those who need to hear it. Trust me, you've never heard a story like this before, and it's just the beginning of so many heartwarming and life-changing tales to come. I never imagined that a simple favor could change everything. But then again, life has a way of turning the smallest moments into the most unexpected twists. It all started on a quiet Friday evening. The house smelled of lavender from the candles I'd lit earlier, and soft jazz hummed from the speaker in the corner. I'd just finished cleaning up after dinner when my husband, James, walked into the kitchen. His phone was in hand, and there was something hesitant about his look. "Hey, do you remember Alex?" he asked casually, though his tone suggested there was more to the conversation. I did remember Alex. He was James' old friend from work, always kind, a little quiet, but the kind of guy who didn't need to speak much to be liked. He'd been to our wedding all those years ago, and we'd seen him every so often at gatherings. Single, after a tough divorce a few years back. Of course, I replied, drying my hands on the towel. Why? Well, he's in a bit of a bind, James explained. He's leaving for a business trip tomorrow, and his dog sitter canceled last minute. He asked if we could look after his dog, Max, for a few days. A dog? I wasn't really a pet person, but it wasn't a huge deal. How long? I asked, unsure. Just the weekend, James assured me. He'll be back Monday evening. I sighed but smiled. I suppose I can handle a dog for a few days. James kissed my forehead. You're the best. He'll drop Max off in the morning. The next day, at precisely 9 a.m., the doorbell rang. I was still in my robe, sipping my morning coffee, when I opened the door to find Alex standing there. He looked a little flustered, his hair slightly out of place, as if he'd been rushing. Beside him was Max, a golden retriever with soft, kind eyes and an enthusiasm that could melt even the most reluctant heart. Hey, thanks again for doing this, Alex said, stepping inside. He set down a bag filled with dog food, toys, and what looked like an entire instruction manual for Max's care. No problem, I assured him. His grateful smile made me realize how much he had been stressing over the situation. I really owe you one, he said. We chatted for a few more minutes before he glanced at his watch. I have to get going or I'll miss my flight. As he turned to leave, I noticed the way his shoulders seemed to relax, as if knowing Max was in good hands had lifted a weight off his chest. Have a safe trip, I called after him, and with that, it was just me and Max. At first, everything seemed normal. Max was well behaved, and I found myself enjoying his company. He followed me around the house, his tail wagging happily. That evening, as I curled up with a book, Max rested his head on my lap, sighing contentedly. But then, something unexpected happened. Late that night, I was in the kitchen getting a glass of water when my phone buzzed. A message from Alex. Hope Max isn't being too much trouble. Thanks again for helping out. I smiled and replied, not at all, he's a sweetheart. A few seconds later, my phone lit up again. That's good to hear. I was worried he might miss me too much. Truth be told, I already miss him, and our late-night conversations. I froze. Conversations? I knew Alex and James were close, but Alex and I? We'd always been friendly, but we'd never really talked one-on-one outside of casual gatherings. I typed, well, I'm sure he'll be excited to see you on Monday. A pause. The reply came slowly. Yeah, Monday feels far away. I stared at the screen, unsure how to respond. Was I reading too much into this? Shaking my head, I put my phone down and went to bed. But sleep didn't come easily. Something about that exchange lingered in my mind. The next day, as I went about my routine, I found myself thinking about Alex more than I should have. His words, the way he'd looked at me when he dropped off Max. Had there been something there? Or was I just overanalyzing? Then, in the afternoon, my phone buzzed again. "Hey, do you mind if I call you for a minute?" I hesitated, then replied, "Sure." A moment later, my phone rang. I took a deep breath and answered. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "Hey," Alex responded, his voice warm, almost intimate. "I hope I'm not bothering you." "Not at all," I said, though my heart started racing. "What's up?" He exhaled softly. I wanted to hear your voice." A strange nervous energy ran through me. This was definitely not a normal conversation anymore. "Alex," I said carefully, "is everything okay?" He was silent for a moment before finally speaking. "I don't know," he admitted. "I think I've been holding on to something for a long time, and this weekend, knowing you're the one looking after Max. Knowing you're there while I'm here. It made me realize something." My breath caught in my throat. What was he saying? "I've always thought of you as more than just James' wife." For a moment, I didn't know if I had heard him correctly. His words hung in the air, heavy and unexpected. "More than just James' wife?" I whispered. "I know," he said quickly, almost defensively. "I shouldn't have said that. I've kept it to myself for a long time. I wasn't planning on ever saying it, but something about this weekend. I don't know, it just came out." I closed my eyes, my mind racing. I had never seen Alex in this way before, but now that he'd said it, something inside me shifted. A dangerous curiosity. A quiet realization that I wasn't entirely unaffected. I should have shut it down. I should have told him this was inappropriate, but instead, I found myself asking, "How long?" "A long time," he admitted. "Probably longer than I should have. I never wanted to interfere in your life. You and James seemed happy." "Happy?" My heart skipped. "Were we happy?" "We are happy," I said, the words feeling hollow. "Are you?" Alex's voice was gentle, but it struck a chord deep inside me. I opened my mouth to respond but found that the words wouldn't come. We had been together for almost 30 years. We had built a life, a family. But in the last few years, something had changed. The passion had dulled. There were moments when I felt like I was just moving through the motions of my own life. Alex wasn't asking to change anything. He just needed me to hear him. But now, I wasn't sure if it was just the conversation that had changed everything. "I don't want to cause trouble," Alex continued. I needed to be honest with you, even if nothing comes of it." I swallowed hard. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," he said softly. "I just needed you to know." A heavy silence hung between us. Finally, I forced a small, unsteady laugh. "Well, this is definitely not what I expected when I agreed to watch Max." Alex chuckled. "Yeah, neither did I." But beneath his words, something had shifted, something we couldn't ignore. There was a brief pause after Alex's chuckle, and then the weight of his confession settled into the room like a heavy fog. We were both trapped in this moment, two people acknowledging something neither of us had ever expected to feel. "I don't want to make you uncomfortable," Alex said, his voice now softer, almost pleading. "If you want to forget this conversation ever happened, I completely understand. Just say the word, and I'll never bring it up again." I should have said yes. I should have taken the escape he was offering, told him that everything was fine and that we would go back to normal, just as if nothing had changed. But I didn't. Instead, I hesitated. And that hesitation spoke louder than words ever could. I didn't say anything right away. The weight of everything pressed down on me, suffocating me with its intensity. I had always thought of Alex as James' friend. But now? Now I was seeing him differently, his voice, the way he spoke to me, the way he made me feel like I was more than just James' wife, more than just the mother of our children, more than the woman who had spent years organizing everyone else's life. I was me. Someone who had long since forgotten how it felt to be seen like that. I barely slept that night. My thoughts churned endlessly. Was I reading too much into this? Was this just a fleeting moment, a temporary lapse? The next morning, I convinced myself it was nothing, a harmless confession. Alex was far away, and I'd see him on Monday when he picked up Max. It would all go back to normal. Or so I thought. That afternoon, my phone buzzed again. Would it be too much to ask if I called again? I stared at the message. I should have said no, but I found myself typing back, okay. When I answered the call, my heart was pounding in my chest. Hey, I said, my voice shaky. Hey, Alex replied, his voice quiet, almost hesitant. I wasn't sure if you'd pick up. Neither was I said softly. There was a pause. Then, with an almost pained whisper, Alex asked, would it be wrong if I told you I wish I was there right now? I exhaled slowly, the weight of his words hitting me all at once. It wasn't just the question, it was the way he said it, the vulnerability in his voice. I had to steady myself, feeling my heart racing. Alex. You don't have to say anything, I began, but he interrupted me, his tone soft and urgent. I just wanted you to know. Another pause. And then, before I even knew why I said it, I whispered, I wish you were here too. The words left my lips like a slow, aching surrender. The moment they did, everything changed. A rush of something unfamiliar and powerful flooded through me, something thrilling, terrifying, and exhilarating all at once. I wish you were here too. Alex didn't say anything at first. I could hear his breathing on the other end of the line, slow and deep, as if he was absorbing what I had just admitted. Are you sure? His voice was careful, like he was treading on dangerous ground. I swallowed hard, pressing my fingers to my temple. I don't know, I admitted honestly. I just know that something about this feels different. And I don't know what to do with that. I get it, Alex said after a beat, his voice low. I didn't mean to put you in this position, but the truth is, I wasn't sure how I would feel once I said all of this. But now that I've said it, I can't take it back. And that was the problem. I didn't want him to take it back. There was something intoxicating about the attention. The way Alex made me feel like I was seen, not just as a wife, not just as a mother, but as me. It was a feeling I hadn't realized I'd been missing for so long. Do you ever wonder what life would have been like if we'd met under different circumstances? Alex asked suddenly. I hesitated, the question taking me by surprise. I had never considered it before, but now, I couldn't stop thinking about it. You're thinking about it now, he said, his voice a whisper. Yes, I breathed, a shaky admission. The rest of the day felt surreal. I moved through my usual routine, cleaning, walking Max, making dinner, but everything felt different. Like I was living in two realities at once. In one, I was the devoted wife, the woman who had built a life with James. In the other, I was someone else. Someone who was letting a man who wasn't her husband slip into the corners of her mind. I couldn't deny it anymore. Something had shifted, and I wasn't sure how to control it. That night, as I sat on the couch absently stroking Max's fur, my phone lit up again. It was Alex. Can't sleep. Keep thinking about you. I stared at the screen, fingers hovering over the keyboard. I should have ignored it. I should have turned it off, walked away. But I didn't. Instead, I typed back, me too. A few seconds later, my phone buzzed again. I know this is probably the worst timing, but I have to ask, if things were different, if we had met before you and James, do you think we would have had a chance? I sucked in a breath. I already knew the answer. I couldn't stop myself from typing the truth. Yes. The next morning, everything felt heavier. My thoughts were tangled, my body restless. I made coffee, and as I stood at the counter, Max sat at my feet, looking up at me as if he knew something was wrong. I sighed, rubbing his ears. What am I doing? I whispered. At that moment, James walked into the kitchen. Morning, he said, stretching his arms. I turned, startled. Hey, I said, forcing a smile. You're up early. Yeah, James muttered, grabbing a mug. Couldn't sleep. Had a weird feeling. I froze, my heart skipping a beat. A weird feeling? I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. He shrugged. I don't know. Just off. He took a sip of his coffee and then studied me closely. Are you okay? My heart pounded. I opened my mouth to say yes, but the lie caught in my throat. Because I wasn't okay. I was caught between two worlds, two people, and I had no idea which one was going to pull me in. Yeah, I finally said, forcing a smile. I just didn't sleep well. James nodded, but something in his eyes told me he wasn't convinced. And maybe, just maybe, he shouldn't have been. The hours crawled by, and with each passing minute, the tension inside me grew. I tried to ignore it, but the pull between Alex's words and my life with James was too strong. By the afternoon, I couldn't take it anymore. I picked up my phone, my hands trembling slightly as I typed out a message to Alex, "Can we talk?" A minute passed, and then my phone buzzed with his response. "I was hoping you'd say that." We spoke in quiet, careful words, knowing we were treading dangerous ground. "I don't want to hurt you," he said softly. "I know," I whispered. "I don't want to hurt James either." But the truth was, everything had already shifted. There was no turning back now. "I just need you to know," Alex continued, "that if things were different, if there was ever a world where we weren't bound by timing and circumstance, I wouldn't have let you go unnoticed." His words hung in the air like a confession, a wish, a heartbreak wrapped in possibility. And in that moment, I realized something. Alex wasn't trying to pull me away from my life. He was showing me something I had forgotten. What it felt like to be seen. To be wanted. To be chosen. And maybe that was why this had happened. It wasn't about what I was missing with James. It was about what I had forgotten about myself. That evening, as I sat across from James at dinner, I studied him in a way I hadn't in a long time. The man I had built a life with. There was comfort in that, but comfort sometimes made you forget that love needed to be tended to. It wasn't about Alex. It was about me. I needed to find that part of myself again, the woman who still wanted to feel desired. Alive. Not just comfortable. Maybe that was the conversation I needed to have, with James. Not with Alex. Later that night, I sent one last message to Alex. "Thank you for making me remember something important." He replied almost instantly, "And what's that?" I stared at the screen for a long time before typing back, that I don't want to live the rest of my life just feeling comfortable. I want to feel more. There was a pause before his final reply, then "Don't be afraid to ask for it." I put down my phone, exhaled slowly, and turned to James. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid to say what was on my mind. It wasn't the end of a story. It was the beginning of a new chapter.